Hello, welcome to the day 2 of the Barcelona test notebook, and you would have heard the grazie a tutti because we've just broken up an hour-long press conference with Maurizio Arrivabene, the new Ferrari boss, who took over from Marco Mattiacci before him, and then Stefano Domenicali before him as well. So, Simon, we might as well go and have a look at the man himself. It's a very hot press conference for him. He had to take off his very fetching Italian-style scarf in the middle of it because he was getting a bit hot, and had plenty of interesting things to say. So let's go through some of them, and I'll try and grab a word with Antonio Boselli from Sky Italy. I'll just see if he's got a bit of time to have a word with us about some of the things that he was saying. Just latterly, the last few things he was saying was about, whether he blamed Alonso for the sort of poisonous atmosphere in Ferrari towards the end of last season. He said he didn't do that at all. It was just that when the pressure is on and things aren't going well, then people try to cover their behinds, was the phrase he used, and it wasn't Fernando's fault at all. It wasn't him as sort of disruptive presence. So should we follow him, should we let him leave then? It's Karen Sturm, just having a little word with Maurizio. Of course, a long time in Ferrari. He worked for Philip Morris, the tobacco sponsor, and so knew what was going on in the company from a little distance, and so could see where the problems were, even though he was on the commercial side. He's got a lot of friends in the team itself, and then knew what was going on, and so was able to sort of make some of those changes. So let's follow him out and then just have a quick word with it's very urbane Italian gentleman, isn't it? Ciao Antonio. So if we go through a few of the lines from the beginning. He's very charismatic, by the way, as I'm sure you'll find out throughout the season. He said, call me Maurizio. I hate it when these people call me Arrivabene. He said the first priority was to put the team together. We don't believe in the Winter Championship. We're making progress, but I'm not out of my mind. I'm not going to tell you we're going to beat... Oh, hello. Yeah, grazie a lei. I think that's the word. Thank you very much. Oh, he's still talking. No, wasn't going to say. Thank you. No. I think he was saying... Thank you to you, not to me.
No. He said, "Did I make a big mess?" And I said, "Yes, you did." I go, "Yeah, but really? I mean, he likes to, he's out speaking. He always likes to be very clear and very direct when he says things."
Yeah.
And
well, he certainly was that, and there were a few interesting lines. I want to go through briefly everything he said. He said, I'm not going to tell you we're going to beat Mercedes, but it's a good start. We've got fantastic drivers. Now, I found the Rory Byrne story interesting. Now, many of you will know Rory Byrne was part of the dream team with Ross Brawn, Rory Byrne, and then Jean Todt throughout the sort of winning years of the mid-2000s. But now Rory Byrne's come back from Thailand. He's working in Maranello and is there as a kind of mentor for Simone Resta, who is the new chief designer after they got rid of Nick Tombazis.
Yes, and it was even interesting that Arrivabene mentioned Aldo Costa, because you know that Aldo Costa, when left Ferrari, was not very well seen when the press would be speaking good things about Aldo Costa. But he said that, and yes, I mean, Simone Resta is a young chief designer, and they hired back because he's always been a consultant. But in the Tombazis era, it was a little bit left aside, Rory Byrne. And I think that when Tombazis left, they understood that Simone Resta needed at least a mentor to have more, probably to be more secure in what he was doing. But apparently he's doing well. And the other thing that was interesting about Arrivabene press conference was also about the engine people. He said, we have great engine people, because a lot of criticism was last year about the people working on the engine. Yeah. He said, Ferrari we just need to give him confidence, and they're going to deliver.
Yeah. Of course, Luca Marmarini. Let's take a little stroll, shall we? Luca Marmarini was the chap who was one of the many chaps who's given the elbow in the engine department, and now it's Mattia Binotto as well. There was a line on the engines about Manor F1, which I should tell you about. I'm going to talk about Manor F1 a bit later later on. I forgot to do it. We ran out of time yesterday. In that he has an agreement now. Ferrari are, of course, a creditor of Marussia, of Manor F1, but they've come to an agreement with that, presumably to settle that debt. But he said yesterday, we will supply Manor F1 with a 2014 engine. So not this year's engine, it will be last year's engine. But what else about Vettel? And this was one of the key things. Let's do the Vettel story, shall we? That Vettel wasn't sure around Japan Grand Prix time, Sochi, whether he should commit to Ferrari. And he said there was a phone call from Sergio Marchionne, but crucially from Michael Schumacher's manager, Sabine Kem. So she called. Of course, she knew what Ferrari is like, knew what a great place it was. Well, you tell the story. It's amazing, isn't it? It might be Sabine Kem who actually convinced Vettel to go to Ferrari.
Yes, because it was actually it was a news, because we knew actually a little different story. But now we know that the first approach was with Sabine Kem, who worked alongside Schumacher for many years. So probably the fact that Sabine could give this kind of hints to Sebastian about
it's a recommendation and endorsement of it, that he'll, because Vettel had doubts, didn't he?
Yep. Because we have to go back, a few months ago, and it was a real mess in Ferrari. So if you think about swapping from Red Bull to Ferrari, it would have been now it seems everything seems really cool and really easy, but at the time it was difficult. So it was Kem who said first, as you said, there was an endorsement, and then Marchionne, came in. And I think that when a man like Sergio Marchionne calls you and tell you, we want you in Ferrari, I think all the doubts were gone.
Yeah, okay. So amazing, really, that, of course, Michael, of course, still sadly not able to call Sebastian himself and recommend it, but his longtime manager and friend Sabine Kem actually made that call. It's a lovely story. I'm interested in the changes as well. And he talked about how James Allison was putting together the team. Of course, we have Pat Fry, who's not there anymore. Hirohito Hamashima, the tyre guy, is not there anymore. And James Allison wanted to make some changes. He said the changes made a lot of sense. It's allowed people to express themselves and to be liberated. This can often happen in teams, can't it? And of course, Arriva Bene said that he had his own views, but it was him and James Allison who put those positions in and changed completely the engineering side. It's amazing. There aren't any engineers from last year who are race engineers. Andrea Stella gone to McLaren, Spaniolo not on Kimi's side. It's Dave Greenwood in, and it's completely different. And Jock Clear, who will eventually come from Mercedes to Ferrari. When do we think? In August?
Yeah, I think that's going to be the date. But I think that one of the goal of Arriva Bene was really to clarify all the line of command. He really didn't want too many people talking and suggesting too many things. As, for example, it's not a personal thing with Pat Fry, but Pat Fry was basically a second row technical director. And so when you have this kind of line of command, decisions are kind of slow to come. So I think one of the reasons it was really to liberate, as you said, just to give space to everybody. And one thing that he said in the Italian part of the press conference, he said that he asked James Allison to look at things at 360 degrees. And that he believes that an architect, to make a good house, needs to speak even with the guy who is putting up the wall. So he wants everybody to be open-minded, and then they're going to make the decision that they have to be clear, no pressure. Let's say they're not going to bring 100 pieces, new pieces every race. They're going to just decide 1, 2, 3 line of the development, and that's going to be it.
Yeah, I remember. How many front wings did they have last year? And rear wings? Too many, exactly. Okay.
That didn't work.
Yeah, I know, yeah. Okay, a couple of other things quickly. On Kimi Räikkönen, he said he sees a completely different Kimi this year, and I think we've seen that as well. Apparently Kimi has been laughing and smiling in the Ferrari garage, and Arriva Bene has been going up to him saying, Kimi, are you sick? Are you ill? This isn't like you. But we've seen that as well. He said last year Kimi had a front of the car which he couldn't feel, couldn't get any sense from. And also now we know they weren't able to fix that at all. So Kimi went through and didn't speak about it in the media much, didn't complain, didn't, have any bad words about the team. He kept it under wraps, but he was impossible. They couldn't change that car for him at all last year.
But I think that is a personality that really should be investigated, because we know him as an Iceman, but he's not. Yeah. He's really like I talked about it with, for example, Felipe Massa, and he said, it seems to be so cold, but it's not. Even the joke that was doing now Arrivabene was always on this kind of stereotype, Yeah. But he's not so cold and so I don't know. He really likes to get into the job, and he really suffered a lot, and he suffered a lot, Fernando Alonso. And I think that this gave a big boost to the team and to himself too.
Yeah. Okay, well listen, I think that's it. He still put the objectives as 2 race wins. He said 2 race wins is kind of the basic objective Ferrari want this year. 3, he said, would be fantastic, like winning the championship. And Arrivabene said, if we win 4, I will take my shoes off and run. I don't think he said naked, but take his shoes off and run up barefoot up the hill by Maranello. Is there a hill?
Yeah. Actually, some of the great engineers of the history of Ferrari live up on the hills close to Maranello. So.
All right, okay. And just another quick thing about Esteban Gutierrez, who's their test driver. He said he thought he came into Formula 1 too young and possibly in the wrong environment with Sauber, which I thought, seeing as Sauber is a Ferrari customer, but he seemed to say it was the wrong team for him. And about the concept car that we saw, you would have seen on Sky Sports and across a lot of Twitter and the media, he said that image was a provocation to show what's possible for a future in Formula 1. Let's ask every team to propose a concept car and see what we get in 2016. Right, have I got everything? That seems about it. What's your general sum up, though? Because to me, Arrivabene seems like the right guy, finally. He's a cool guy, he's a clever guy, he knows what's going on, he's already inside the team, he doesn't have no experience like Mattiacci, and he doesn't have the baggage of Domenicali.
Yeah, I mean, he knows exactly what to do. Formula 1, as you definitely know, is a very complicated sport. So there are a lot of things that have to be put together to make a successful team. But he has a very clear idea of how things have to be managed, and I think he's the right guy in the right position right now, but only the track and the times on the sheet.
Well, indeed it will. And there it is. Let's just finish with an image of the guys at work and the trucks down here at Ferrari. Antonio, thank you very much. That's the story of the Renaissance, the revolution at Ferrari with Vettel and Raikkonen. And join us after the break, where we'll be rounding up everybody's day here at Day 2 at Barcelona. Hello again. Welcome back to the Notebook for the Barcelona test Day 2. And I've done it 2 times in a row now, yesterday and today. And I've said that I was going to tell you about Manor F1, Lake Marussia, and I've forgotten. So I've written it on my hand, to tell you about Manor F1. The good news is, because this is pretty much where they would normally be at the tail end of the paddock, even though they did finish, of course, 9th, didn't they, in the Constructors' Championship last year, ahead of Sauber and Caterham, thanks to Jules Bianchi's 2 points in Monaco, that it's looking like more positive news than when the F1 strategy group decided that they didn't want them around. And it looks like they might get through that kind of vote and still make an appearance in 2015, which would be amazing. The chances are still slim. I think we're still talking 1 chance in 4, perhaps, that they've got of making it happen. Because, I'll explain. Well, they've done the hard bit in that they've got approval now from the creditors, who include Ferrari and McLaren, to come out of administration through a company voluntary agreement. I think it's called a CVA. So it's a legal process that has to happen. They'll exit administration. They hope to exit administration within the next few days. And then the question is, what happens with coming to the races? Can they get a 2015 car built? If they can, then can they miss the first 3 races? If Force India have already voted that they won't agree for Manor F1 to turn up to the first Grand Prix in Australia with the 2014 car. And I've spoken to the FIA. They've kind of said that, you know, we can't bend the rules for some and then allow it for others. So it looks like that idea is indeed dead in the water, but it doesn't mean that Manor F1 can't miss the first 3 races, still have an entry, and then come in for the Bahrain Grand Prix, having missed Australia, Malaysia and China. If they do that, miss the first 3 Grand Prix, they won't get their money. They will not get their money, we think, for 9th in the Constructors. If they were to turn up in Australia by some miracle with a 2015 car so that the Force India vote against them doesn't count, then they would get their money. See what I mean? That's the current thinking at the moment. That's not confirmed, that's just what we've been able to tell. Of course, there are agreements that teams have with Bernie, which say that you can miss 3 races, and then there are agreements that teams have with the FIA, which say that you're not really meant to miss any races, and there's an insolvency issue in there as well, but even though they say that wasn't actually the case. Manor. Anyway, then there's the name change, by the way, because even though the entry is under Manor Grand Prix Limited, the name still has to be changed and then agreed by all the teams from Marussia to Manor F1, or whatever they want to call it. If they get an investor who wants to change the name, perhaps, or a car company who wants to come in and change the name, that is something else that has to happen. So that's the situation on Marussia stroke Manor. So they've done the hard part now. Let's see if they can do the rest of it. But as I say, it looks like at the moment probably no greater than 1 in 3 chance that they'll actually do it. But we do hope, of course, cross our fingers that they do. Sauber, let's tell you about them. Marcus Ericsson's first day in the car, and he was 9th. His number is number 9, ME9, and he was 9th. 113 laps. And they did a lot of aero measurements in the morning, and then did some long runs after lunch, and then some short runs in the afternoon. He actually stopped in the middle of the paddock. Sorry, in the middle of the pit lane, just adjacent to the pit lane, and then was wheeled in. Not sure if it was a fuel-out test. But anyway, that drew an end to Ericsson's day. But otherwise, steady progress. They haven't been as fast here as they were in Jerez. Some thought still that they're chasing lap times, but they're not really doing it particularly well on a 9th quickest so far, with 113 laps. But still, never mind. Lotus, it was all about getting some laps for Jolyon Palmer today. P8. He was 77 laps, getting him up to speed, doing some setup work with their test driver, reigning GP2 champion Jolyon Palmer. A lot of data gathering then in the afternoon and changing some setups with Palmer so that they can understand, get him comfortable in the car. Looks like we're setting up some kind of press conference in Mercedes, which is interesting, with some people sorting out what looks like some tablecloths. What on earth is going on in there? But an interesting thing about Lotus is that you know, because they've changed to the Mercedes engine, there's a lot more stuff they need to relearn. Gear shifts and power curves and everything like that. Of course, it affects everything else, the programming, the gearbox, and really everything else. It's not just as simple as stick a Mercedes in the back and go quickly. There's a lot to relearn. That's what they've been doing. But the good thing about this Lotus car is that it's much more predictable. Grosjean and Maldonado both saying they can be consistent. They can drive it, whereas last year's car was just such a nightmare, horrible beast of a thing. They never knew what it was going to do from corner to corner. So that's the great thing about this Lotus, where they might be able to go a bit quicker. Bonjour, ça va?
Ça va bien?
Yeah, not bad, not bad, not bad. My colleague from Canal Plus. Have you found that, just talking about Grosjean, have you spoken to him yet about how consistent this Lotus is?
Well, he's so much happier than he was last year, but I think he's happy about anything he's having. So he hasn't driven it yet so long. So, and even this week he's only driving for 1 day. So I'm not sure he knows himself how good and quick the car is.
Laurent, thank you very much. Laurent Dupin, everybody, from Canal Plus. Okay, who have we missed out? Mercedes. Rosberg did 66 laps before he wanted to rest his neck. He said it wasn't the pain in the neck that made him stop, but they wanted to save it for Sunday. And apparently it is a new seating position he's got in this new car that's given him this pain in the neck. And so he's changed it to the old seating position. these things can make a difference. Hamilton set his quickest lap on the medium tyre, and he was P5, 89 laps. So Lewis still not feeling good. He said he couldn't really push. You probably heard his interview already in the programme before, because he just wasn't feeling great, and he does look a bit sick, I must say. So hope he gets well soon. He's back in the car tomorrow when it's meant to be wet. And then Rosberg is back in on Sunday. Lewis did do a race simulation, and he did some shorter runs in the last half hour. Well, a better day for them. After yesterday, they had some fuel problems, some fuel system problems, and some brake problems as well. Look at this geezer with the great sort of legacy Benetton jerkin there. That's quite cool with the logo on the back of that. Looks like he's sort of pinned it on to an existing yellow and blue body warmer that he already had. They might have a look at Sergio Perez while you're at it, Simon, wearing a very fetching cashmere scarf. And it wasn't a glory run with his super soft run today. He set a pretty decent time. Let me just find what it was. Force India P4, 121 laps, using the super soft, but they were testing it because, of course, Force India sort of pride themselves on always running the softest tyre available and then doing the most laps that they can on that soft tyre. And that's kind of always been their, the joker in their pack. That's how they score their points, and they're good points. So they want to continue on that idea this year, and to do that they wanted to get some new running on the super soft, because the super soft is not only all the tyres are a different construction this year, particularly the rear tyres, they're a different casing and different construction, but a lot of the other tyres are different, the same compounds, apart from the super soft. The super soft is a different compound this year than it was last year. So it was important for Force India to get the work done on those tyres, to really understand with both drivers, and they'll probably do it with Hulkenberg, they say, in a day or two's time. They also changed a bit, wanted to do some race distances with 121 laps, because it's going to rain tomorrow, apparently. Yeah, come on, let's figure out here. And so a lot of the teams have rejigged their programs. Funky stair lights, eh? They've rejigged their plans to get some drivers who are driving today in with some practice and race distances, in case the ones tomorrow aren't able to, because it's going to rain. I didn't make any sense on that, did I? All right, McLaren, we are here. Eric Boulier says that we've only done 50% of what we wanted to do. So, I don't know, what does that make them? Does that make them 50% less prepared than they wanted to be? Perhaps. Are they a month behind? Maybe. Boulier, I asked Boulier whether he thought they were a month behind. He said, "Oh yes, I have heard you say this, but I don't know. All I will say is that we haven't done half of what we wanted to do." I think that's probably a better way of summing it up. The car is still in launch configuration. They need to work with the aero when they get the new aero bits in Melbourne. That's Mr. Arai from Honda, just walking away there, by the way. If they can get the car to work, they feel at McLaren, it will be fast. The car handles well. It handles differently to last year. Jenson Button's much happier with the balance, and they really think they've got somewhere to go with it. So if they can just get it going, they think it's going to be all right. A couple of other things. Mr. Arai said that straight line speeds are important to Honda, but they haven't done enough running really to get a handle on how good their straight line speeds are, but they'll have a look later in the test. Eric Boulier said the base is good. Considering the fuel and engine D-rate, I asked him, how are the lap times? Because the engine is running derated at the moment. He said, well, the base is good, but we haven't tried anything or used any tools yet to go fast and do a fast lap time. Good. Well, that sounds encouraging, doesn't it? That's good. Let's go back into the, away from this sort of barrier construction organisation, and just wrap everyone else up. Ferrari, I think we've done enough with them today, but Sebastian Vettel went down to the Red Bull motorhome to say hi to Christian Horner, which I thought was nice. Horner was having a very serious-looking discussion with Cyril Abiteboul from Renault, and Helmut Marko was there as well. And Vettel just came in with his beanie hat and said hello, which I thought was touching. But Kimi Räikkönen ended up fifth. Did he know? With the soft tyre, sorry. So Ricciardo, Massa and Raikkonen, who were the top three, were all within a tenth of a second of each other. So it's very, very tight at the end of the day at the top. As for Red Bull themselves, Adrian Newey was on the pit wall today. Ricciardo did the race distance, 66 laps race, started on the softs, then went to the medium and the medium. All the times were pretty good, but he did manage a good number of laps, 100 and... Well, it was a lot, wasn't it? It was about 140, I think it was. Haven't written it down. But it was, they had a bit of trouble in the pit stops, but eventually they managed to get the race distance completed. Excuse me. And just quickly, time to tell you about Toro Rosso, who were P10, Carlos Sainz, who we're going to meet tomorrow in the notebook. So if you don't know much about Carlos Sainz Jr. or Carlito, then tune in for tomorrow's notebook at the beginning of it. So we're going to have a Meet Carlos Sainz session. Look forward to that, eh? He had a spin at turn 9, was annoyed with himself, but managed to do 100 laps. It was a fiery end of the day for Toro Rosso. There was a little fire at the rear of the car, bit of smoke, but they were happy enough-ish, although Sainz was annoyed with himself for spinning, did a 28.9 for slowest of all P10. Bit of an untidy day, a bit messy for Toro Rosso. Messi. Doesn't he play for Barcelona? That was Neymar. Neymar was here today. Oh, yeah, it's football. Okay, right, that's it. I'm out of time. Thanks for watching. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Enjoy Sky Sports F1.